Most of us believe we know what love feels like. We describe it as a warmth, a turning toward someone, an investment of our deepest energy. But often, hidden beneath that warmth, is a tension we've carried for so long. We've forgotten it's there. In Buddhist psychology, there is a word for this tension, upadana. It is usually translated as clinging or attachment, but its literal meaning is more visceral. It is the fist we make around the people and circumstances we love. We hold them tight because we are terrified of the one thing that is absolutely certain: change. Across this hour, we are going to explore why we have confused the fist with the heart. We will look at why we treat our relationships as permanent shelters, when they are, by their very nature, temporary ones. Most importantly, we will discover how to move from a love that is a contract based on fear to a love that is an open hand, a warmth that remains steady even as the world flows away. 25 centuries ago, a young man named Ratapala lived in one of the wealthiest households in ancient India. He had everything his culture valued: status, comfort, and a future carefully arranged by those who loved him. But when he encountered the Buddha's teachings, something cracked open. He realized that material sufficiency could not reach the incompleteness he felt at his core. His parents were devastated. They refused his request to ordain 3 times, driven by a love that could not imagine a life for him outside their own expectations. To them, losing the version of their son they knew felt like a tragedy. Years later, after intensive practice, Ratapala returned to his home village. As a monk, he stood at his parents' gate, waiting for alms. His own mother came to the gate, looked him directly in the face, and did not recognize him. She saw only a generic monk, a man with a shaved head and worn robes, and placed food in his bowl, as she would for any stranger. In that moment, an ordinary person would have felt the pain of invisibility, the crushing weight of being unseen by the one person who should know you best. But Ratapala received the food with total equanimity. He did not require his family to see him as their son in order for his interior to remain at peace. He had released the identification with a fixed self, built from their expectations. He could love them fully because he no longer needed them. to perform the role of the ones who recognize me, to feel complete. What was the difference between Ratapala and his mother in that moment? It lies in the distinction between metta, love, and upadana, attachment. Attachment is the demand that what we love remain exactly as it is. It is an insistence that a person, a feeling, or a role stay constant in a world that is constitutionally incapable of staying constant. Upadana does not arise from deep caring. It arises from fear. The fear that if the person changes, the self we have built around them will not survive. Love, in contrast, is a genuine orientation toward the well-being of the other. It is a warmth that does not require a particular response in order to remain warm. As Ratapala demonstrated, he was glad to see his family. He ate with them and spoke with them with genuine warmth, but his sense of wholeness was not a possession he had extracted from them. It was a quality of his own luminous mind that he brought to the table. We often think that if we stop clinging, we will stop caring, that we will become hollow or indifferent. But the release of attachment doesn't produce emptiness. It produces space. It is like setting down a heavy bag you've carried for miles. At first, the absence of the weight feels strange, but then a lightness arrives that makes genuine connection possible for the first time. The fist of attachment is our attempt to stop the river. We are taught that impermanence, anicca, is a tragedy, a warning that we will lose everything we value. But this is only half the picture. Impermanence is simply the nature of everything alive. The person you loved 5 years ago is not exactly the person standing in front of you today. Their priorities have rearranged. Their face has shifted. If you cling to the version from 5 years ago, you are not loving the person. You are loving a memory. You are fighting the sweeping away of the world. And that fight is the source of your exhaustion. When we understand that difficulty is as impermanent as joy, the burning coal of resistance begins to cool. We realize that suffering isn't in the moving of life. It's in the grip that insists it must be held in place. Loving without the fist allows you to be like the earth, which receives everything, the clean and the filthy, the beautiful and the repellent, without being overturned or destabilized by what lands on it. How do we practically begin to hold others with open hands? It begins with the first foundation of mindfulness, returning to the body. The next time you feel the grip of anxiety or the need for someone to see you in a certain way, don't try to fix the relationship first. Instead, feel the physical fact of your existence right now, the weight of your hands, the arrival of your breath. Notice where the grip lives in your body. Is it a tightness in the chest or a clenching in the jaw? By noticing the sensation without immediately acting on the story the mind is telling, you create a gap. In that gap, you can choose to soften the grip by just 1 degree. This is not self-excuse. It is self-compassion. It is the practice of being a mother to your own suffering, tending to your own incompleteness, so you don't ask your loved ones to fill a hole they were never meant to fill. When we stop seeking our luminosity in the validation of others, we find it was never missing, only unattended. There is an old question asked by a young man named Kappa for those being swept away by the flood of loss and grief. Where is the island of safety? The Buddha's answer was not a destination. It was a state of being. The island, Kappa, is this: possessing nothing, clinging to nothing. This doesn't mean having no people in your life. It means possessing no demand that they be your permanent protection. It means realizing that the island has always been here. It is the quality of awareness that is present when searching and avoiding are finally at rest. Radapala stood at the gate, unrecognized and invisible. Yet, he was standing on that island. He had discovered a way of loving that costs less and holds more. He was no longer a slave to craving. Today, you can choose to set down the contract you've written for those you love. You can choose to release the fist. You can choose to be the yes to your own name, complete in the simple, radical sufficiency of being exactly where you are.